Imagine a boy, born in poverty, abandoned by his own people, hunted by enemies. A boy who had nothing, no power, no wealth, no safety. Yet that boy would rise to command the largest empire the world has ever known. His name would strike terror across continents. His armies would reshape civilizations. And his story is unlike any other in history. This is the tale of Temujin, the orphan who became Genghis Khan. But before he was a conqueror, before the world trembled at his name, he was just a child, struggling to survive. In 1162, near the Onon River of Mongolia, Temujin was born into a harsh world. His father, a tribal chief, was poisoned by enemies when Temujin was just a boy. Overnight, the family was cast out, abandoned by their own tribe. They were left to starve on the endless steppe. Temujin's childhood was not one of laughter or safety. It was one of hunger and betrayal. At 10 years old, Temujin faced his first test of leadership. In a fight for power within his own family, he killed his half-brother. Brutal, yes, but it sent a clear message. Temujin would never let anyone stand in his way. Later, he was captured by rival clans and enslaved, a prisoner bound in wooden stocks. But through cunning and courage, he escaped under the cover of darkness. From these struggles, one truth burned into his heart. Life is fragile and loyalty is everything. On the Mongolian steppe, loyalty was rare and betrayal was common. But Temujin saw a different path. He formed bonds of brotherhood and swore blood oaths with men like Jamuka. Together they dreamed of uniting the fractured tribes. But Temujin's vision was radical. Instead of honoring nobles by birth, he promoted men based on merit. If you were strong, brave, and loyal, you rose, whether you were a slave or a noble's son. This idea was revolutionary. Warriors who had no future under other chiefs flocked to Temujin. They found not just a leader, but a brotherhood. While others ruled with greed, Temujin ruled with fairness, and demanded absolute loyalty in return. He wasn't just building an army. He was building a new kind of nation. Every conqueror has a first taste of power and blood. Temujin's growing power soon put him at odds with his old ally Jamuka. Once brothers, now rivals. The two clashed in brutal battles across the steppe. Temujin lost some, won others, but he never gave up. And with each fight, more warriors chose his side, drawn to his discipline, his vision, his fairness. He demanded obedience, yes, but he also rewarded loyalty. Loot was shared equally. Soldiers were fed before commanders. Discipline replaced chaos. Temujin was no ordinary tribal chief. He was something new, something far more dangerous. In 1206, after years of bloodshed and victories, Temujin gathered the Mongol tribes for a great council, a Kurultai. Here the chiefs declared him Genghis Khan. The title meant universal ruler. With his new power, Genghis Khan reformed everything. He created a law code, the Yasa, strict and absolute. He reorganized his army into units of 10, 100, 1,000. Families were split across units, making betrayal almost impossible. Loyalty was rewarded. Treachery was punished with death. This was no longer a wandering nomad. This was a man forged in hardship, crowned in destiny, and feared as the ruler of all Mongols. With the steppe united, Genghis Khan looked outward. His first target, China. The wealthy Xia and Jin dynasties believed the Mongols were just raiders. They were wrong. Genghis Khan's army struck with lightning speed. Cavalry moved 100 miles in a day, attacking where no one expected. He hired captured engineers, built siege weapons, and learned to break city walls with fire and stone. But his greatest weapon was fear. News of Mongol victories spread faster than the armies themselves. Whole cities surrendered rather than face annihilation. China had faced enemies for centuries, but never a storm like this. In 1218, Genghis Khan sought trade with the Khwarezm Empire in Persia. He sent envoys with gifts and peace. The Shah responded by killing them. For Genghis Khan, this was more than insult. This was unforgivable. What followed was not war. It was extermination. City after city fell. Resistance was met with fire and slaughter. Legends say rivers ran red with blood. Survivors were spared only to spread the terror. It was vengeance, but it was also strategy. The world now understood. Defy the Khan, and you will cease to exist. How do you conquer cities without fighting? By making them too terrified to resist. Genghis Khan mastered psychological warfare. He spread rumors of massacres to break morale. He released survivors to carry tales of horror. At Nishapur, resistance brought such fury that the city was reduced to rubble. And yet, Genghis was not only a destroyer. He spared artisans, engineers, and scholars, resettling them across his empire. He allowed freedom of religion. Muslims, Christians, Buddhists all could worship freely. He was a paradox brutal destroyer, pragmatic builder, a man who ruled with both terror and tolerance. By the 1220s, Genghis Khan's empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. Under his rule, the Silk Road was reborn, trade flourished. Merchants traveled safely under the protection of Mongol law. A postal system carried messages across thousands of miles. For the first time in history, East and West were connected under one rule. It was the largest contiguous empire the world had ever seen, created in a single lifetime. But even conquerors cannot outrun death. In 1227, while campaigning against the Shisha, Genghis Khan died. The cause remains a mystery. Some say illness. Others say a fall from his horse, some whisper assassination. His body was carried back to Mongolia in secret. Legends say a river was diverted over his tomb, and all who saw the burial were killed to protect the secret. To this day, his grave has never been found, but his spirit still rides the steppe. Genghis Khan built the largest land empire in human history. His descendants ruled China, Persia, and Russia. His laws shaped nations. His campaigns changed civilizations. Even today, millions of people carry his DNA, proof of his lasting mark on humanity. But history asks, was he the greatest ruler or the greatest monster? The answer is both. He was a destroyer of worlds and a creator of empires. Born Temujin, orphan of the steppe, remembered forever as Genghis Khan.